no room for a guess. The mics are hot, the beats hit hard. Fans throw their hands high in the yard. Deals and impressions like a verbal sprint. Breaking it down with an ad tech tint. Ad tech, ad talk, it's a live Q&A. Buy side, sell side, clearing the way. CEO spitting truth, no delay. Chalice and Gemera owning the day. Programmatic flows in the scene real tight. RTB dreams lighten up the night. Adam says pivot, Garrett says scale. Together they weave one flawless tale. Ad tech, ad talk, it's a live Q&A. Buy side, sell side.
Now the world don't move to the beat of just one drum. What might be right for you on the buy side may not be right for some on the sell side. So this show was born. It's a show with memes. And here come our two hosts with nothing but their dreams. Because it takes
different strokes to move the world. Yes, it does. It takes different strokes to move the world.
And here's Adam Gareth.
Ooh, hello. Welcome back to another instance of Ad Talk, where we have lots of things to complain about, but this week, lots of things to celebrate. I'm joined by my co-host, Adam Heimlich, the CEO of Chalice. We are so happy to see all of you here again today. We are so happy to talk about ad tech, to talk about JSON, and to just really drink a lot of coffee. So thank you so much for coming. We're very happy to see you here again.
And thanks, lurkers. Feel free to ask a question or don't ask a question, but keep in mind you could ask anything.
Yeah, we got good topics. I got in some nice big arguments over the weekend in the over the week. My gosh, in the Beeler Slack. So I'll float those out there.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
some news. The news is not moving like crazy. And then we have some lovely listener submitted questions that we're happy to talk about. But like Adam said, chat, please, if you have anything at all, if you want to know what my favorite order is at various New York establishments, because I'm moving back to New York in a month, ask away.
Actually, I have questions about throttling. I reread your throttling piece.
Oh, yes. My
I think
favorite.
that's your greatest work. It really captures a lot of emotion. It's very full of feeling. That has a lot of technical information, but also really conveys your feelings over throttling.
It
We were
persists.
gonna- Let me throw these results at you. Okay, 3 cells. You ready? Wait, let me make sure I get it. All right, it's a live ramp audience of a certain amount of people.
Mhm.
And we uploaded it first into a DSP, regular. The DSP was, it doesn't matter. It was Trade Desk, but it doesn't matter.
Yep.
And then we did it, the same audience, we loaded it into our index seat as a PMP.
Mhm.
And then cell 2 was Trade Desk targeting the index seat. And cell 3 was DV360 targeting the index seat. We set everything to pace as fast as we could, the same bid, the same frequency setting, and we're just testing reach. Okay, you got the 3 cells. One is open.
I got him. I love him.
You got it? Okay, this is first of all, do you want to take a guess at how I was gonna give you the ratio of how they landed.
I bet I can order them.
Okay, yeah.
I bet DV360 on index delivered the best. I bet Trade Desk on index was the second best and Trade Desk Direct was the worst. Or did I invert it?
No, Trade Desk Direct was the best. It had all exchanges. So why would you think that wouldn't be the best? It had exchanges.
I
Yeah.
thought you were just targeting index. I thought you were targeting one of your deals for bidding. So you
Yeah.
were running it everywhere. You were letting everyone ID bridge.
Yeah.
Yes. All exchanges ID bridging will always do better than one exchange.
So
Um,
I think that does best for ID. Okay, now out of the other two.
Yeah.
So we'll call that one 6. Okay, if that was a 6, where would you say the other two fell? Trade Desk targeting our PMP and
Oh, well, this is not just throttling at him. This is ID bridging. ID bridging really works.
So that's a 6, right? So it's super high.
I don't know, a 2 and a 1. Yeah.
That's the other way around. 2 then 3.
2 and 3. Okay. I mean,
So why the difference between DV360 and trade desk targeting the same PMP? And I'll give you one reason that we found,
Yeah.
and it was that DV360 didn't respect our minimum bid.
Oh, interesting. Um, I mean, I know just in my experience, so I set up deals all the time with these systems. And the exact same deal with the exact same targeting in index, when you send it to DV360 versus the trade desk, DV360 has more eligible requests every single time.
Why?
So my naive explanation for this is because I haven't gotten to see the guts. I don't have an account at any of these buy side seats. I am a reader of tea leaves here.
Yeah.
But I always assume it's throttling. And by what I mean by throttling in this circumstance and why this would be the case, is basically in order to control costs, there are certain impressions that the trade desk deigns not to listen to. So basically, when things are coming in from index exchange, the trade desk has profiles set up that it sort of establish like a probability that they are going to buy an impression. And this they take everything into account, right? Like these are machine learning algorithms that look at location, like blah 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 blah,
What are
and
they looking
potentially user
for?
ID.
I would think based on what trade desk has said is they're looking for the odds that it's unique because they're trying to not to deal, they're trying to filter through duplicate bid requests.
I get the feeling it's less sophisticated and it's more, do we buy this? Like, like literally, I would think it's as simple as win rate and bid rate. Those are the things that they're looking at. And they look at win rate and bid rate across all of the different components of all the requests coming in.
But
And it's
but I
like
have counter
naive in that
evidence,
way.
like the win rate and bid rate is good, so they have no reason to throttle it, even if that is the reason. And I'm not saying, and trade desk,
Well, good
trade desk,
according to what?
well, to average, right? What else would they compare it to than to average?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think that who knows how their algorithms do these things. But there is like a second order optimization here where there's the trade desk's throttling and then there's indexes throttling.
They might respond.
And index is doing the same thing. Index doesn't want the egress for impressions that they really don't think the trade desk is going to buy. Um, but that being said, I normally don't think to index as throttling as an explanation for non-delivery. And that's just because when I send things to DV360 through index, it's literally double. Like the DV360 gets double the requests for the exact same deal configuration that the trade desk does. And the way it's been explained to me is, oh yeah, DV360 doesn't want anything throttled. They want to listen to absolutely every single request that could possibly come through.
All right.
Um, but
I want to
that's
flag, it's a little conspirational. A lot of people say it. Doesn't mean it's true, but a lot of people
definitely not.
say the trade desk punishes and rewards suppliers based on their own reading of the tea leaves. And trade desk basically says, no, we don't. That's conspiracy theory.
It's
So
fair.
that's where it stands, and it's fair, but no one's really like opened up the box and said what's really going on here.
Why and why not? Well, I don't think throttling should exist, by the way. I think that like throttling is a result, and I hit this in my article really hard. Like throttling is a result of ID bridging. So your six is that's six's fault. Like the
Yeah,
fact that those
about that.
segments,
Let's
like
talk about that.
yeah,
We upload a live ramp segment into a DSP, and then what happens with those IDs?
yeah. So they well, there are two things happening, right? The DSP is constantly doing cookie syncs and doing whatever with suppliers and blah blah blah. And there are all sorts of things that might influence how well those cookie syncs happen and how well they match that audience with other people deterministically. But what's actually happening is all of the exchanges are very smart. And all of the exchanges, in the name of outsourcing this, also work with other companies who are ID bridgers who are very smart. And what they do is they look at the UIDs that the trade desk buys. And trade desk knows this happens, by the way. They hate this. But they know there are companies out there that exclusively exist to listen to which user IDs are monetized well by the trade desk. And I would guess a user ID in your live ramp segment that has some sort of meaning for your buyer, you guys are probably bidding relatively aggressively on that. That's probably a relatively high value user when compared to, the average.
Yeah.
And so people on the sell side see that, right? They go, hey, this when this ID is here, CPMs are high because someone likes it. And then there are all these probabilistic solutions out there that say, well, we don't have a cookie on this user, but they're on this website. They have this user agent, they have this IP address, and they have these other characteristics. We think that this user is probably this person. And then, so they pass in the high value user ID. And the danger here is that we think can cover a lot of ground, right? Especially when there's a monetary incentive to think that the user ID is someone in Adam's high value segment. And this is what ID bridging is, where they're saying, and the exchanges don't do this themselves. The exchanges work with these companies and they say, hey, company, I have this bid request. I want to send it out to the trade desk. Do you have a user ID for it? And by the way, you get a percentage of some sort of revenue driven by it as a data provider. And company goes, well, yes, I certainly do. In fact, I have the user ID for Adam's live ramp segment. Allow me to send that to you. And then you push that into the buyer UID field, which is what happens. And and when you have a bunch of exchanges doing that, all of a sudden your match rates are way up, right? Like that's why that's a 6 and the other two are a 3 and a 2, is because it's the amplification effect of all the exchanges doing this probabilistic matching to try and find your ID.
All right.
So, that was a lot of words.
That one thing, like the thing that makes the throttling really hard to figure out is that it's potentially two sides throttling. And now when we do this in containerized RTB, which is a test hopefully I'll be able to talk about next week, we'll at least be able to eliminate the sell side throttling because we're at the edge. We circumvent any sell side throttling. So if there is buy side throttling, we can isolate it.
I can't wait to see it. Also, there shouldn't need to be buy side throttling. Like the only reason there's buy side throttling is because we live in this ID bridge world. And to be fair, right? Well, you did these 3 examples. If you weren't if you were the agency or the brand, and you had ops people spinning up these 3 strategies, which one would they pick?
Right? Yeah, one. And my product team all wants one. They're like, yeah, we got to do it this way because
it's gonna make us the most money. Like we're delivering the best. We want to deliver. It's fascinating.
Yeah, not to talk too much about internal fights at Chalice, but these tests are, let's just say they're being closely watched.
Well, and it's a really real problem, right? Because there's an architecture that is optimal, right? That should be the right way to do things.
Yep.
And then there's an architecture that feeds the beast and continues to do things the wrong way, but it looks like it delivers the best. So like it's a really that's a hard conundrum, man. Like I don't envy you. That's
the conundrum. No one gets kicked out of the ecosystem. We're all relying on each other, and it's a recurring problem. We can talk about it later. Let's see what the question's about.
Question. That's tough.
All right, let's bring up our question. I know the answer to this one.
Hey, Blue Hawk.
Blue Hawk. If you had to pick a few ad tech experts whose content genuinely makes you smarter and helps you navigate the industry's complexities, who would they be and why?
Gareth hates ad tech.
I have a few people I like.
Go ahead.
I always like Paul Bannister's posts. And the reason I like Paul Bannister's posts is he works at Raptive, and there are a few people who work at Raptive that I just really think know what they're like. They know the guts. Like Patrick McCann, who's the chair of Preview.js now. Patrick knows what he's talking about. Like, like I have my disagreements with Patrick, but he knows what he's talking about. So I always read Paul's, and it's always like a data-driven perspective where like, hey, across our bajillion publishers, this is what we see, and this is what I think. I also like Jay Friedman.
Oh yeah, Jay Friedman. I didn't think of him. Jay Friedman. Yeah. He writes good stuff.
He does, man. And he's like, it's like when I talk to you, right? It's a perspective that it comes from a world that I just don't live in. Like where these are what the buy side is thinking about, worrying about.
Yeah, that's like what I like about you is you're very open about what's actually going on the sell side, what we're dealing with, and how you feel about it, most importantly.
I'm honest to a fault.
So mine, I forgot what I was going to say first. So I'll go to who I was going to say second is Jeff Green. A lot of people don't really listen to what Jeff is saying. They try to read tea leaves and make conspiracy theories and assume that what Jeff is saying can't be taken at face value or isn't what he really thinks. But I knew Jeff before he was such a big deal. He pitched me Trade Desk in like 2012, and he's the same guy he was in 2012. And he really speaks from the heart. He's very straightforward, and he has a unique point of view. One thing that's changed is I think he gets better information now, and he has a longer term view, from being where he is, running a $40 billion company. And to me, that just makes his writing more interesting. It's annoying to me the way people react to his writing. I think there's always a lot to think about in what he's saying, and a lot of times the responses aren't thoughtful. That's a little annoying. Brian O'Kelly's been posting a lot of
Oh,
content lately. There's a lot to think about.
I should have said Buck.
Understand Brian all the time,
That's
but
my
his
bad.
mind, his just has a unique mind, and he's being very generous with it now, giving out a lot of thoughts on a lot of topics. And I think it's just always fun to get Brian's take on stuff. And now I have to keep going with Charles Investors. Joe Zawatsky, guy's got ideas every day, super interesting. Jonah Goodhart, who's actually hustling his own startup now again, is really great. I think everyone in the ad tech industry has the opportunity to be pitched by Jonah. So you just call up Mobian and say, I want to hear about it. You could be a 22-year-old media planner and hear from Jonah Goodhart. That's gold. Like he has one of the most informed perspectives of anyone in ad tech. And yeah, and then besides Jay, there's a lot of people who don't do much content, right? But those are ones who are putting out content all the time, and I think have real interesting takes.
I love social media, Brian. Social media, Brian's very fun.
Yeah, it's to me, there's just a layer of incomprehensibility for him. Like I can't put myself in Brian's shoes and see things the way Brian does.
I totally agree. He's like very orthogonal sometimes. Like
Yeah.
he's like very like thinking about this just in a way that is just not a straight line that I would like analyze a given product release or like emerging thing in. It's great. That's a good list.
Oh, in England, Rob Webster, he's doing a lot of content. Agency guy who's running his own consultancy, and he's very in it. He's very in the tech, and now he's been very in AI lately, and I think he's been posting good stuff.
Yeah.
I'll give him
There's
my
nothing like a good argument with Rob. Like he loves a good argument.
That's a good one. Yeah, he'll debate. You don't want to debate with Bach.
Oh, I learned that long ago. I don't disagree with Brian.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's a good mix. Thank you for the question.
yeah, good old Blue Hawk.
I know. Should we cover the question that was submitted in advance? I
Yeah,
think
now
it's a
that you
good
got
one.
that.
I mean,
Marley, you got that?
I definitely have that. So what are some of the new and innovative use cases that a containerized setup enables that traditional DSP/SSP setup does not?
All right. What can you give the questioner's name?
I'm showing Anon, guys.
Showing Anon. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So what Anon is talking about, it came up at the IAB Tech Lab conference this week. That was one of the pieces of news, right? They focused on a few new pieces of tech. The one that I know about is the containerized RTB working group, and they're going to release some standards around containerized RTB. I think this questioner is talking about the container, is talking about how I talked about it before, and I'll explain it real briefly and then answer Anon's questions. So a container, we say container, we mean a server within a server. And when we say containerized RTB, we mean translating the server to server process of an RTB transaction, right? There's always been a buyer server and a seller server. They connect and have 200 milliseconds to complete the auction, doing that all in one server. And right, this container technology and the orchestration layer, which is called Kubernetes, allow this to happen all in one server. And as Gareth likes to talk about it, it creates a level of modularization, or I would call it an unbundling, meaning that a lot of the functionality that now exists in platforms and is mixed up with other functionality can be alone sitting in the server as a containerized module, right? or you could call it an agent if you want to be in the AI world about it, as we do. So the first example of containerized a containerized module in RTB is called LiveRamp Sidecar. And LiveRamp, it's not that's the first like commercial one. A lot of networks have containerized all their functionality, right? Networks are a good example. Like if you have a network and you're doing the buying and selling both, right? It makes sense to make them both in containers in the same AWS instance, right? Then you could do much more in the 200 milliseconds. You have to send auctions because they're in the same server. There's no latency. That makes sense, Gareth? You've seen this with networks?
I mean,
Containerizing?
the best networks. I
That's
don't know how many of them actually do
right.
it.
More advanced. It's something AWS offers, right? So that's been going on. But the first commercial example is called LiveRamp Sidecar, which solved the problem. If you're operating in LiveRamp IDs, so you send an audience of LiveRamp IDs and the conversions come through your CRM to more LiveRamp IDs, you don't know who to bid on because the exchanges don't necessarily send you LiveRamp IDs, right? So you have to buy some before LiveRamp Sidecar, you have to buy some impressions, transcode those IDs into LiveRamp IDs, see who you got. So LiveRamp said what we really should be doing is translating the ID in the bid request to the LiveRamp ID in real time. So they made a container so the bid request comes out of the Exchange server through LiveRamp Sidecar, and then someone reading it on the other side sees that with a LiveRamp ID. And it makes LiveRamp much more functional to use as a universal ID or to use for optimization. And I would say LiveRamp Sidecar is the reason that Trade Desk UID2 is not the standard that LiveRamp is today, even though it's in some ways free compared to LiveRamp being a fee, is because of Sidecar, it makes it much more functional. So the idea that Andrew Casale from Index Exchange, oh yeah, that's someone who's been pumping out a lot of good content lately. Andrew Casale has been like on a world tour talking about sell-side decisioning and containerized RTB. I think he is the person to listen to in ad tech right now. And he's probably coming to your town if there's a conference in your town. So catch Andrew. He pushed the idea of moving from curation to what might be the logical extension. Instead of just curating certain things out of the ad server, why don't you containerize the bidding into a module that lives in that server and then just bid where the requests come from, right? So he compares it to edge computing and high frequency trading, saying, all right, right where the requests come out and index is 250 billion a day. Now the Chalice bidding agent living in the Kubernetes container sees all of that, right? So if index decides to throttle Trade Desk or DV360, it doesn't matter to us. We get all of that. But now to get to Anand's question, what does this mean to me, the buyer or the seller? And that brings us to the reason that we were pursuing this, which was to be able to decision in real time on pages, on full URLs, right? Because the Chalice path is, let's score all the IDs. Let's score all the Trade Desk IDs. Let's score them as Beeswax IDs. Let's score all the Xander IDs. Now let's score all the devices and days of the week. So we have a machine that's scoring everything for every campaign all the time. And then when we started getting to domain, we're like, we could go further than domain. Like domain is an aggregation of a bunch of pages, right? So let's start going subdomain and let's try to score the full URLs in the pages. And the problem we ran into is no one lets you bid at that low level. Very few people let you have different bids for different pages. So that's what we were after. And that's the first answer to the question is what it brings you today is page level decisioning. And page level decisioning has a huge amount of value for buyers and sellers. We launched this thing Q4 last year. We could already see in the results that the difference in quality on one website, it's a huge variance. So being able to choose which pages of Yahoo or Fandom that you're buying on, it makes a huge difference in the cost and value of what you get. And really value for publishers, it starts to give them feedback on, hey, laying out your pages different ways results in different CPMs, and you're now incentivized to have lower ad to content ratio. You're going to make more money overall than if you fill this page with ads. So de-incentivizing MFA. So that's where it's at today for quality. Page level decisioning. There's also an outcomes piece of page level decisioning that will get better and better as we start using more and more large language models on pages. And we're looking for publishers to participate in this, right? Instead of letting ChatGPT or Anthropic scrape all your content and do God knows what with it, work with Chalice. We'll create content-based decisioning and cut the publisher in, right? So that's something that's coming soon. The next thing But if we listen to Casale, what he's talking about is that the 200 milliseconds that you have for a request and response, which was a very short time and was invented in 2008, is now a very long time, right? The Chalice bidder in index servers is responding in under 1 millisecond. And Andrew and team gave us a ceiling of 5 milliseconds. It turns out to be under one, which means it could also run through LiveRamp Sidecar, which takes 1 millisecond. And it could also run through 198 other things, right, that are modularized. So all of yeah, potentially all kinds of data integrations, your Gamma data that's telling you all unique things and data from different markets and suppliers all can be containerized and living together without these big platform integrations, right? So one way to think about this future change, the future potential, is that now in ad tech you have this difference between a point solution and a platform, right? And people might look at Chalice and say, "Oh, you're just a point solution. You're only doing bidding." And we're saying, that difference isn't really important anymore because any number of point solutions can be stacked up in the container to operate in 1 millisecond each, and anybody can make a platform out of any of them in a few days or a week. So this isn't important. This is not an important distinction anymore for software companies. Thoughts?
Yeah. I love the ending of it. Because like so whenever I think of this, I think of we modularized pre-bid server with an eye towards modularizing the ad exchange, right? We wanted to modularize the whole thing. So it's funny, like you kind of represent the ad exchange reaching towards the buy side and bringing in modules from the buy side. But even within the ad exchange, there are a bunch of features that can be modularized. Where let's say you want to work with 5 different price floor providers, right? If I work with an ad exchange today, that ad exchange probably does its own dynamic price flooring. They probably do. They have a feature that they built for it. And in reality, they could have a little UI where anyone can come in and say, I have a dynamic price floor algorithm. You can integrate me, user of this ad exchange, and check this box. And there's a standardized interface where all dynamic price floor companies get the same piece of information. They have the same amount of time to respond, and that's the whole thing. And the fact that you have an interface instead of a company building each feature is like the future. That was always the goal. And we wanted that for everything. We wanted it for price floors. We wanted it for brand safety controls. We wanted it for every facet. Hell, financial transactions. You could modularize the flow of money. You could do that too. You could have 5 different payment processing companies who pay you on different terms and give you different rates. This is a direction ad tech needs to go in. And it is. And honestly, I think that the reason is as important as the thing. The reason you guys did it is because a DSP didn't give you the functionality you needed to do what you wanted to do. Like they just didn't have it. And I'm sure their product people were like, well, how much money are you gonna spend? You know, like, oh, and okay, we'll get it on the roadmap, maybe like a couple years. And like, oh, it's really expensive for us to do this. And that's just nonsense, right? Like, we need to be like out of the world of slow moving large companies. And this modular architecture does that for us. It means that, oh, anyone who's running a standard, and by the way, the next step here is the platforms themselves need to become open source. And once that's done, then, oh, everyone just speaks the same language. Everyone's the standard. I might be a point solution, but I know exactly the interface that I'm going to build to, and then I can work with every single platform, and all I have to do is go convince people to check my box and compare me to other people. I think that's the future we're building towards, and it's great. That's like awesome.
Platforms have to open source. You're saying that they should have, you're assuming that there's still going to be someone that the buyer wants to pay, right? They want this in one bill. So there's going to be some entity who's going to supply a UI and take them all the money and divide it all out, right? And all our modules should just be choices in there that you could turn on.
You got it. That's exactly right. And in fact, there's an alpha of this. So when I was at Magnite, I inherited and grew and created a project called Demand Manager, which was a pre-bid management platform. And so any given publisher will tell you they are pitched by 10,000 different vendors. Oh, and by the way, Eric and Michael, you can take me out to dinner for this spiel I'm about to give. But every publisher gets pitched by 100 different vendors. And that sucks because even if there are vendors they want to test, their lawyers, right? If you're a large publisher, are like, well, I'm not reviewing 25 test contracts for vendors. Do you understand the life that I live? Like, get away from me. And just and then, the developers, right? Like the taxed developers at a publisher, there are 5 of them. And, and they're like, hey, I can't keep testing vendors. Like, I have to build our website. Like, leave me alone. It sucks. So they designed a product, or I designed a product when I was at Magnite called Control Center. And Control Center made some enhancements to some data structures on the page. And then after I left, they built a click to sign workflow. And so anyone who is using Magnite to manage their pre-bid stack can test any vendor that can integrate natively with pre-bid without doing any contracts and without building any new billing relationships. And that's because Control Center manages the everything, right? Like it's you click to sign, okay, we're going to work with these people. Magnite's going to handle all the payments. And in fact, even better, Magnite is going to deduct the payments from the payments due there. So they don't even see the money going out. It's amazing. And that's the future.
Like this, but they have like an integration queue and it takes a long time for new companies to get integrated. So does Magnite solve the problem of having to technically integrate all these companies and having
Pre-bid solves that problem.
What solves it?
So pre-bid, because it's an open source software, there are no custom integrations. There is only a native way to do it. You do it according to the pre-bid spec, which means that every integration should be the same, basically. There should be no surprises. And yeah, that's why you need the open source along with the platform. Without the open source, you don't have standards. And I'm sure that's what the IAB is thinking, by the way, with their containerization thing, is you need the standards for the interoperability to work. Otherwise, you end up in that situation with product managers saying, yeah, 3 years.
It's so cool. Yeah. I mean, the issue on the buy side when you were talking about sell side is measurement. Like you want good measurement, but there's too many measurement vendors. You can't test them all. They all make similar claims. They all take a long time. So it'd be so cool if you could just turn on measurement vendors and get measurement. This is an idea that I know Jonah Goodhart has kicked around, is having like a measurement platform so you could easily test them. It's something the market really needs.
And especially if there were like an open source way to do this, like where everyone can start to agree on standards and implementations and all that stuff. Yeah. I don't get to know, I don't know that world, but it sounds
And
cool.
ID checking, right? It could solve ID bridging. You could just have a containerized checker of the IDs. Is this who it's supposed to be?
Oh man, we just need to stop paying people. That's the answer for that one. Just kill the payments. Like, oh, I didn't match. Not getting paid. See you later. Sorry.
Yeah, that might
It'll
be our
stop
last
real
topic
quick.
today if we don't get a question. Is I've been thinking about how, because there was another scandal of people serving ads on porn, and I don't even know who got caught this time.
It was Google. It was
Oh, yeah,
Google.
Google, of course. I mean, Google approved the app, but I don't know if I don't know if they got caught serving ads there.
I mean, it was labeled a children's app. wasn't it? Like,
That's not good.
it was bad. It was bad in many ways. Like,
I have to check. Always my source of ads on porn for who got caught.
it was a bunch of big brands. I remember the press release. It had like 4 or 5 big brand names in it because they just love to do that. Those poor brands.
Epsilon,
Like,
Moby, Loco. Loco. Wouldn't expect that. Yeah, in Moby and Uplove and Shore. Facebook Shore. So that's I guess that's who got. But anyway, the point is that none of these companies are going to get thrown out of the ecosystem. Like, and ideally they would have like you're saying, like this is like it's a red flag or at least a yellow flag. Like you show up in one of these, then you straighten up your act or get out. You lose your access. But that's just it's something. I don't know if people realize, like we created an ecosystem that's based on open source tech, and then we're all interrelated. We all become reliant on each other. That makes it extremely difficult to throw anyone out. And there's been many attempts to get people to agree, like this is a line we shall not cross, and anyone who crosses this line gets thrown out. And there are certain bars, or there's you can get banned. It has happened, but you have to be really bad. It's
I
yeah.
will say there are two things that I would love to open source in the world of modularization. I think Open Sincera goes a long way. There
Yeah.
should be a like agreed upon review of every page that flows in RTB that everyone can go look at, including the publisher themselves. I appreciate that. I
Yeah,
like that a
say
lot.
a little more about Open Sincera. Officially launches today.
Yeah, I have my reservations about crawlers in general. Like, I'm not a crawler guy, but I think that the mission is like sound. Like, create an open taxonomy of the web that everyone gets to look at and use. And I actually think it's as important for like content policing. Like, is this pornography? Is this unacceptable? As it is for quality data. Like I really do think once this is open sourced, there should be a concept here of, okay, well, if it's this page isn't in the big database, this page is not in the ecosystem.
Yep.
Like it should be that simple. Um,
Yeah,
and
you're
I
right.
love that. I love that idea. Like I think that that should be a thing.
Yeah, that's the awesomeness of the business idea, and it goes right with the Chalice business idea is that data is like oil. And if you're an if you want to be an oil company, of course you want to guard your own oil and have your own proprietary oil and integrate vertically where the oil is only used by you to make money. But what's best for the country is that the oil comes to the market, the data comes to the market, and then people compete over who can refine it best into the best gas product or the most value, right? And that was the Sincera idea. And the reason we're such strong partners is we were like, wow, there's a source of data that's actually saying build products on top of this. And it's like, yes, we want to compete at that. We think we have the best product built on Sincera data, right? Page level decisioning in our index container. And it's I'd love to see more examples of that, right? Like Sincera's done well with this attitude of, hey, we just want to be a data company and let other people build products on top of it. It's the better way.
So the other place this needs to happen is brand categorization. So the same way that buyers complain about low quality websites, publishers complain about low quality ads.
Yep.
And every single ad exchange has their own methodology for classifying creatives and tying brands to creatives. And
Terrible.
they're all different. And there's not even like a standard list of categories. That's bonkers.
Is anybody
Um,
working on this? I mean, this is an AI problem, right?
no, no one's working on
No,
it, and it drives me
we're
crazy.
gonna hear.
There should be a big open source list of brands, landing pages, and categories. And here's the thing, Prebid did bid the ability to do this decisioning inside of Prebid. So you don't even have to do this inside exchanges, and it shouldn't live in exchanges. It should live in Prebid. But there is no like master list. There's no like giant thing at the middle to manage this, and
What a
they're
nightmare. What a nightmare for publishers. I didn't know this. How do they
oh,
manage those conflicts? Like if you have an auto ad, you can't have another auto ad, but they don't know what the ad is.
oh, it's a huge mess. They have things slip through all the time. Also, think about this. It creates inefficiency because some exchanges let things through and other ones won't. So some exchanges will actually have an advantage because they categorize things differently or miscategorize them. So they will bid when the publisher has turned those things off in other exchanges. It's hot garbage. It's hot. This
All
whole
right,
thing is hot
we're
garbage.
giving out startup ideas. It's a shame nobody's watching because it sounds like this is a valuable idea that Gareth's just giving out to the ad tech ad talk community.
We have a question.
Ah, somebody is watching.
All right, let's bring this up. This is a question from our friend Blue Hawk. Oh, this is a question about cans. Do you think the Cans Festival truly drives tangible business growth and industry transformation, or has it become primarily a networking and self-promotional event for the advertising elite? It sounds like he hates those
He
cans.
hates these cans!
We're gonna have to answer that after Ken. I went once. I found it productive. I don't like conferences in general, so you're gonna hear griping and complaining with me. Um, Chalice, head of content, Marley Baker, who's on the line, is coming to Cannes. It'll be her first Cannes. I know she's excited, right?
I'm so excited. I'm a creative though, so I'm like, this is going to be my space to like flow and get new ideas and learn. I'm pumped personally.
You're gonna see some very well-dressed European creatives. That's a big highlight of Cannes. But as a conference, there's a few problems with it. It covers way too much ground, so you have to run from meeting to meeting. It's almost impossible to get a cab because it's the south of France in summer. They're hard to get and they charge quadruple. And it's way, way hot. It's like 100 degrees. It's like almost Vegas hot, which is crazy because it's supposed to be a beach town, but there doesn't seem to be much ocean breeze flowing up in Cannes. What else? You're in
Stay away
France.
from the can!
You're in France, but you don't get a very cultural experience because Cannes
No.
festivals all summer. They're very used to just dealing with tourists, so it doesn't. As someone who travels to France a lot, it doesn't. You're not really in France when you're there. You can go to neighboring towns and then you're in France, but within France, no, you don't even barely even hear any French. And then what else? But all the conferences have more value than they used to since COVID because we just don't see each other as much. Like if you were in sales in New York pre-COVID, you would just go from office to office all the time and have in-person meetings. Especially if you sold to the holding companies, you'd be in their offices every day. If you sold to any agencies, right? I'm sure it was the same with publishers. You'd be in their offices all the time. Now, not only are you not there as a seller, the people who work there are only there a couple of days a week. So we just don't see each other so much, the people we're doing business with. So all the conferences have a lot more value. And can especially is, it's a little more executive, right? The cutoff is a little higher, so it's important people sitting down, they don't get to talk much. And there's more drinking, right? That people, it's customary to open wine in the morning, so people get a little more, the feelings come out a little earlier in the day.
I'm glad you threw that one in there at the end because I've been to Cannes once,
Yeah.
primarily for corp dev, so like not a lot of sales. But you can't talk about Cannes without talking about the fact that is a line of parties on yachts at night.
Yeah.
Like that is a thing, and I well, who was it? I guess it was when Taboola bought Convert. The rumor was that deal was done at Cannes.
Oh yeah.
So, like there is a concept of the
It
level of social lubrication that exists
results in buying companies.
leads to things. Who knows if those are good things? They might be good things. They
Uh,
might be bad things.
yeah.
But things do happen at Cannes.
I
Um,
think I just bought Adelaide.
yeah, you just put that out in the universe. That's on you. Um, that's gonna pop into someone's head at 2 a.m. on a yacht, and they'll be like, "I should buy Adelaide."
Yeah, there's a party. One of the big bankers has a white party. Everybody wears white,
hmm
and uh, and one of the big data companies has a party on an island. That one's really executive level. You have to take a boat to the island, and the party, I guess it's out in the Mediterranean somewhere. There's a bunch of parties like that, and yacht parties, and yeah, that's considered a big deal. But yeah, whatever. I don't want conferences in general. I'm just my party days are past, but I might go to
We
Yeah.
one.
hate these
It's mostly
cans!
exhausting at this point. Um, but I do think it's also funny because I always talk about this with everyone. People I live in the same city as, we will both go to a conference in another city, and that's when we'll have the face-to-face meeting.
Oh
And
yeah,
it's like we had to fly to France to have this meeting, and we both live in Manhattan. Like this is very silly. But it's a thing. It's real.
it's a thing. That's the life we've chosen.
Yeah.
All right, let's wrap it up. Sleepy summer Friday.
Perfect,
Yeah,
guys.
let's
We'll talk
bring it.
about price floors next week. There's a lot to talk about with
Oh
price
yeah.
floors.
All right.
And
We will express ourselves on price floors and other stuff. Thanks a lot, everyone, for coming, for lurking. Thank you, Gareth. Thanks, David Maldo from Let's Do Video, our designer, Marley Baker. We'll see you next week.
thanks,
Thanks for
guys.
watching, everyone.